Well, hey y'all. I'm kind of gonna have a part 2 here of the suffering part of life. And I did just give you a teaching. And I don't feel like there's any one teaching on it. There'll probably be several teachings on it. So first of all, I just want to start out like I always do. How y'all doing? You know something? I got some rough news today. I don't know if you've ever had rough news like this today. I got notified today that a dear friend of my family died. Death happens, we know that. I remember a friend told me that you need to prepare yourself for the death of a loved one. I'm like, you can't prepare yourself for death. You can't. Whether it's a loved one or a friend of a friend of a friend, it's still, when death hits, it sucks. There's no good thing. There's no good way to talk about it. I don't think you get over it quickly. I know people wish you would get over it quickly, but you don't. You don't. You just quietly suffer and people don't know. Or they know, but they don't know what to say. And give them a break. They don't know what to say. And sometimes they say the most awful stuff, but again, give them a break. They just don't know what to say. I mean, I've heard people say horrible things. I'm like, seriously? But they mean well. They're trying to sound wise, and they're just trying to see if they can help. And sometimes they just not only help, they hurt. And it's just better to be the person that's a bigger person and rise above it and say, you know what? That person meant well. And I need to let it go. So, as we suffer in this life, you know, one of the things that I saw was, y'all know on my phone, y'all gonna laugh. I get notifications when there's a tsunami. And some of y'all gonna laugh right now. Do y'all remember a tsunami in Indonesia years ago? Where it showed it on the internet and on TV and the news, where people had this wall of water that came over and drowned people who were on vacation. It drowned people who lived in the village. It drowned people who were washing their clothes and hanging them out to dry that morning. It drowned people who were on they finally got to retire and they were on the resort of their dreams and they were in the pool, and in comes a wave and you see this 60-year-old elderly couple going like this, and the next thing you know, they're gone. And it's like, did they just drown? It's like, they're amongst the many. And you see a lady screaming on a roof who was doing her chores of the day, and you see her, she's right on the coastline. You're thinking it can't be that high, she's on her roof, and then all of a sudden the screaming stops and the camera moves on. It's like, that was at least 50 feet tall. Did she just drown? Yeah. And so I get this little notification today from this little earthquake app that people laugh at me about, and it says Indonesia was just hit with a 6.3 earthquake, possible tsunami. And I remember the era before where people of the faith were saying, where's God? Why does God allow this level of suffering? And why would God allow this suffering? And did he send it, or did he cause it, or did he just allow it? And these are good questions, especially when your mom is the one in the ICU unit. Or your sister just got the breast cancer report. Or your husband just said he wanted a divorce and he's serving you papers while you're in the hospital. And you just found out that he's also having an affair with your best friend. I know some of you are saying that, yeah, Beth, that sounds like a sitcom. I know a girlfriend who literally had all of that happen to her at once. Worse. Let me tell you how bad it was. She had some kind of blood disease, so she lost her leg she lost her whole leg actually, and then she lost an arm. And then her husband came and served her papers in the hospital and said he wanted a divorce because he was having a divorce with her best friend. So she lost her husband, her best friend, her leg, and her arm. And then she got news a few days later that her son had committed suicide. And I came to tell her that I was praying for her, and she said, you know what? Save your prayers. They're obviously not doing any good. And as I walked out of there, I thought, God, she has a point. What a horrible set of events for her. Why would she even want to live? Why would anybody want to live after that? And then there was a tsunami. And thousands and thousands and thousands of people were killed. And I don't even think... There was a lot of people who weren't Christian. So I'm thinking, okay, so God, if these people die and they're not Christian, then they're going, God, are you there? And it was silent for me too. What do you do in those moments? What do you do when somebody stands against you, whether it's at work or whether it's at school? Or whether it's in the world for your political views or your religious views or your moral views, and people are just coming against you. And you look in Joshua 1:5 and it says, no one will be able to stand up against you all the days of your life. As I was with Moses, so I will be with you, and I will never leave you, and I will never forsake you, even in the tsunami, even in the cancer report, even when your husband serves you with divorce papers. No matter what health report you get, your child's gone. Your child is saying they don't believe in Jesus anymore. Your child has died in a car accident. It's like, God, where are you? That's the great question that you should be asking. Who are you and where are you is the right question, because He's the only God there is. That's the answer. And He's right there. For my friend that told me that her father had molested her from a very young age into her teenage years, and she said, and where was God? And I said, our God is a broken-hearted God, and He was right there, right with you. And she said, and He allowed it. I'm like, yes, He did. Do you still trust Him? Even though that... Do you know how many disciples, especially Peter, said, I'll trust you. I'll trust you. I'll trust you. I'll trust you no matter what. I'll trust you no matter what. Even if you go through those kind of times? Would you? You think you're so faithful? Do I think I'm so faithful? Even through those horrors of times, would you still believe that there is a God who loves you so much He would die for you? Would you still trust that God, that no matter what the circumstances are that you're going through, not gonna go through, you're in them, and you're going, God, are you there? And He's like, I'm right here. I'm with you. Do you feel me? Do you know me? This is when we know Him. This is when we know He's real. It's not because He makes everything go good. This isn't a good world. It was perfect, and we screwed it up, or mankind screwed it up, and God said, I'm still going to make a plan. I'm still going to go get them. I still love them. I love them so much I just can't let them die. I'll go save them. And He did. But we still have this world to deal with, and we still have this flesh to deal with. I was like, you know, I asked my husband, who's my spiritual mentor and who I look so much up to, and I said, you know, if I've got the Holy Spirit living in me and all of His attributes and qualities, then why do I still struggle with self-discipline? He said, because of this. Your flesh. You still got to fight your flesh. And the more that you draw close to Him, you'll get closer in the Spirit, and this flesh will mean less and less and less, and you will have more and more and more victory. I look at my father, I look at my mother, who are both struggling with physical stuff, and I think, you know what? As my mother struggled with physical stuff in the hospital for 2 months, she suffered and suffered, and I was like, God, where are you? And He's like, I'm loosing her of her flesh, and she will let go, and she will be in the Spirit. She'll come to me. I was like, this is horrible. He's like, yes. Our hold on the flesh is horrible. But I will give you a new life, a new body, a new place to live, and it's much better than where you are now, just like it was before you agreed to screw it up, and I've restored it, and one day I'm coming back, and when I do, I'm going to make a new heaven and a new earth, and you, right now, before you even do all that, you're a new creation. In me. I'm going to take care of it all. It's hard for us to see because we see with earthly eyes and fleshly eyes, and It's very hard for us to trust at a spirit level, to trust God as who He is, even though we don't see it. And faith tells us that we walk by sight. We don't walk by sight, sorry. We walk by faith. No matter what we see in our sights, we still walk by what we know in faith. What faith? What we know from the Word of God. That's what we walk in. Not what we see of this world. This world will always screw you over. This world will always lie to you. This world will always... And it's like, Beth, you're such a Debbie Downer. That just sounds so depressing. No, it's not, because God has said, even though this world is not something you can count on, I am something you can count on. So when you have those tough times that you ask me, did you send it or did you allow it? Did you just stand by like you're some sort of impotent God that can't do anything about it? Or did you actually, all-powerful God, send such an awful thing? And really, those aren't the right questions. The question is, are you God? I mean, are you even God? And the answer is yes, I am. Are you the only God? Yes, He is. Do you care? Do you love me? He's like, yes. And I've proven it at the cross. Okay, so where do we go from here? It's like, that's a good question. And each answer is different for each life. He's going to show each person what they can deal with at the time, they can deal with for where they're at in life. And He knows what it is that will move each one of us, and it's different every time. It doesn't mean that He's different. He's the same. His laws are the same. His compassion is the same. He doesn't say, hey, it's okay to sin, do whatever you want. He's still got a way that He wants us to live. But He'll let us seek it out with Him. And that's the life that we live. And He loves us and He's with us. And He cares when we suffer. And if we'll keep our eyes on Him, He can take us through that suffering. I hope this helps you guys, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye!